hell's going on?
Tremors, 20 shocking secrets they kept hidden. It looked like just another B-movie monster flick. Dusty deserts, quirky townsfolk, and creatures lurking underground. But Tremors was far stranger and far riskier than anyone expected. Studio battles over its bizarre script. Creatures designed in secrecy, with effects that pushed the limits of practical filmmaking. A tone caught between horror and comedy that nearly doomed it before release. What was meant to be a low-budget gamble turned into an unlikely cult phenomenon, spawning sequels, spin-offs, and a fandom no one saw coming. But how close did it come to being buried for good? What hidden fights shaped the final cut? And what secrets did the cast and crew leave buried beneath the Nevada sand? Prepare to unearth 20 shocking secrets they kept hidden about Tremors. Shocking Secret 1. The wild idea that sparked Tremors. The origin of Tremors didn't come from a boardroom or a pitch meeting. It came from frustration in the desert. Writers S.S. Wilson and Brent Maddock were working on a Navy project in California when Wilson sat on a boulder and imagined a nightmare. What if something underground kept you from ever leaving? That single chilling thought became the seed of Tremors. The can't-touch-the-ground idea inspired the Graboids, the film's monstrous subterranean predators. Wilson scribbled notes obsessively, and with Maddox's help, they developed a script that combined horror, humor, and Western grit. But when they pitched the idea to studios, it was laughed off as absurd. No one believed an underground monster movie could draw audiences. They were wrong. What began as a fleeting daydream in the desert turned into one of the most original creature features in Hollywood history. A desert daydream became a groundbreaking creature feature, proving that even the wildest ideas can strike gold. Shocking Secret 2. How Universal nearly buried the script. When Universal first got its hands on the Tremors script, executives didn't see potential. They saw disaster. The blend of comedy and horror confused them. Was it supposed to be funny? Scary? A parody? No one knew how to market it. Studio notes demanded endless rewrites, each one threatening to strip the story of its charm. They wanted more blood, less humor. Then more humor, less horror. At one point, executives even suggested removing the monsters altogether, focusing only on survival tension. The writers fought back, refusing to let their story be gutted. Their persistence kept the core idea alive, though by the time production started, many compromises had already been made. Universal reluctantly agreed to move forward, but made it clear they didn't expect success. Tremors was a risk they were prepared to bury.
What the
Studio doubt nearly buried Tremors before it began, but the creators' stubborn vision kept the monsters alive. Shocking Secret 3. The casting shakeups that changed everything. Casting Tremors was chaos. Kevin Bacon wasn't the first choice, he wasn't even the second. The studio initially wanted bigger names, including established action stars, to lead the film. But when negotiations failed, Bacon was brought in reluctantly. At the time, Bacon's career was in freefall. After Footloose, he struggled to find serious roles, and taking a part in what looked like a silly monster movie felt humiliating. He reportedly broke down to his wife, worried this role would ruin him forever. But Bacon wasn't the only one caught in the shuffle. Other actors turned down roles, and several casting swaps happened at the last minute. The final ensemble, Bacon, Fred Ward, Michael Gross, and Reba McEntire, was far from what the studio envisioned. Ironically, that unpolished mix became lightning in a bottle, giving the film its quirky, offbeat energy.
Are you okay? Yeah, what about going? What the name of...
A miscast ensemble became Tremors' secret weapon, turning Hollywood doubt into on-screen chemistry gold. Shocking Secret 4: Kevin Bacon's Career Crisis. Before the film, for Kevin Bacon, Tremors came at a breaking point. He was struggling financially, his career felt stalled, and he admitted to feeling ashamed when he signed onto the movie. In interviews, he confessed that he thought starring in a creature feature about underground worms was a career-ending mistake. On set, his frustration boiled over. He clashed with crew members, doubted the script, and at times wanted to walk away. But as filming progressed, something shifted. Bacon began bonding with Fred Ward, leaning into the humor and embracing the absurdity of it all. Ironically, the film he feared would destroy his career ended up saving it. Though Tremors wasn't a box office hit, it became a cult phenomenon, keeping Bacon's name alive during a period when Hollywood was ready to forget him. Sometimes the role you dread the most becomes the one that defines you. The role Bacon feared would ruin him instead revived his career, proving the unexpected can redefine destiny. Shocking Secret 5: The Monsters That Terrified. Even the crew, the Graboids, weren't just monsters on screen, they were monsters behind the scenes too. Designed by legendary effects team Amalgamated Dynamics, the creatures were massive, heavy, and notoriously difficult to operate. Each Graboid required teams of puppeteers, hydraulics, and elaborate rigs to make them move realistically beneath the desert soil. During shooting, malfunctions were constant. The creatures broke down, overheated, and even trapped crew members under collapsed dirt rigs. At one point, a malfunctioning Graboid nearly crushed a stuntman, forcing emergency shutdowns. But despite the dangers, the Graboids were terrifyingly effective. Cast members admitted they sometimes forgot the creatures weren't alive, especially when the animatronics lunged unexpectedly. The combination of scale, detail, and unpredictability made the monsters feel real, not just to audiences, but to the very people filming them. The Graboids weren't just the villains of Tremors. They were the biggest threat on set. The Graboids terrorized both cast and crew, proving that on Tremors, the monsters weren't confined to the screen. Shocking Secret 6: The original title that made everyone laugh. Before it became Tremors, the film had a very different name: Land Sharks. Universal executives thought it was catchy, but the writers hated it. To them, it sounded like a cheap knockoff of Jaws, and even the crew couldn't keep a straight face when saying it aloud. For months, the production wrestled with titles: Dead Silence, Beneath Perfection, and even Graboids. None stuck. Finally, someone suggested Tremors, capturing both the underground menace and the desert's shaky ground. It was simple, powerful, and terrifying. The change was a turning point. Suddenly, the film had an identity. Instead of being dismissed as a Jaws clone in the sand, Tremors stood on its own. That one decision turned a potential punchline into a title strong enough to outlive its studio's doubts. A single name change transformed the movie from a punchline into a cult classic brand. Tremors was born. Shocking Secret 7: The Set Dangers. No one warned the actors about filming in the desert looked authentic, but it came at a price. Temperatures soared past 110 degrees during the day, dropping near freezing at night. Cast and crew battled dehydration, heat stroke, and rattlesnake encounters while working grueling hours on unstable terrain. Dust storms frequently shut down production, ruining expensive equipment. At one point, A collapsing dirt rig nearly buried a crew member alive. Safety protocols were minimal, and many actors were left to do their own stunts on shifting sandbanks and treacherous rock formations. Fred Ward joked that the real horror wasn't the graboids, it was the environment. While the film looked like a quirky B-movie, the dangers were all too real. Behind every light-hearted scene was a cast and crew fighting just to survive the desert. The desert itself became a relentless antagonist, turning Tremors into a battle for survival both on and off camera. Shocking Secret 8: How Practical Effects. Almost bankrupted production, Tremors leaned heavily on practical effects, but those choices nearly destroyed the budget. The graboids were massive creations, requiring hydraulic systems, giant puppets, and elaborate rigs buried under tons of dirt. Each sequence was painstaking. Scenes that looked like quick scares took days to reset, with crews digging trenches and reassembling machinery that constantly broke down. Costs spiraled, and producers panicked as the budget ballooned. There was pressure to cut corners with cheap miniatures or early CGI, but the team refused. They believed audiences would only connect if the monsters felt tangible. Their gamble paid off. The practical graboids became iconic, still admired decades later. But at the time, Universal executives saw the effects as a money pit and considered pulling the plug more than once.
Doesn't he have a home to go to?
Every dollar spent was a bet on believability, and it nearly bankrupted the studio before earning its cult glory. Shocking Secret 9: The scene that made test audiences walk out. During early screenings, one scene proved too much for audiences: the death of the doctor and his wife. Originally, it was far more graphic, with the graboid devouring them in gruesome detail. The violence left test audiences shaken, with some storming out of the theater. Executives demanded edits, forcing the filmmakers to trim the sequence and focus on suspense rather than gore. Ironically, the toned-down version became scarier, with the couple's truck sinking into the sand and headlights glowing eerily in the night. It was a lesson in restraint. Sometimes what you don't see is far more terrifying. The scene remains one of the most haunting in the film, but few know how close it came to being far bloodier, and how nearly it derailed the movie's chances of survival. The deleted gore didn't just save the movie's rating, it sharpened its tension. By letting the audience's imagination fill in the blanks, Tremors turned fear into a psychological weapon, proving that less can be far more when it comes to terror. Shocking Secret 10: The secret behind the graboid sound design. The graboids didn't just look terrifying, they sounded otherworldly. But the noises weren't computer-generated. Sound designers built the audio from a disturbing cocktail of real-life recordings: pig squeals, distorted elephant trumpets, and even human screams slowed to unnatural pitches. Each graboid had its own voice, a layered mix of animalistic growls and guttural roars. The trick was making them sound both alien and organic, something that felt possible in nature yet horrifyingly wrong. During production, some crew members admitted the sounds unnerved them more than the creatures themselves. At night, playback tests echoed across the desert, convincing locals that strange animals were prowling nearby. The sound design gave the graboids life, and in doing so, turned Tremors from campy fun into something chillingly believable.
Girl, you can do it!
Graboid sounds, pigs, elephants, human screams made Tremors terrifyingly real. Shocking Secret 11: Why the film was nearly rated X. When Tremors was first submitted to the MPAA, it received a shocking rating, an X, not because of nudity or sex, but because of its graphic violence and language. The board claimed the film's gore was too extreme for an R, and that the repeated profanity pushed it over the edge. The filmmakers were stunned. An X rating meant commercial suicide. No theaters, no marketing, no audience. So they fought back, trimming bloodier shots and overdubbing dialogue to soften the language. Entire lines of Kevin Bacon's dialogue were re-recorded to swap out harsher curse words. The edits worked. Barely. The film escaped with a PG-13 initially, then was bumped to R after more review. Without those cuts, Tremors might have been buried forever, remembered only as a lost monster film too offensive to see the light of day. Tremors barely escaped an X rating. Cuts to gore and language saved it from being buried. Shocking Secret 12. The unscripted moments that became iconic. Some of Tremors' most beloved moments weren't in the script at all. Kevin Bacon's raw outburst, "I've had it with these mother graboids," was originally improvised. So was Fred Ward's gruff one-liners, many of which came from his irritation with long filming days in the desert. Even the final explosion scene carried elements of improvisation. The dust, timing, and Bacon's leap to safety weren't perfectly planned, making his reactions far more authentic. The crew often encouraged the cast to play loose, capturing spontaneous energy that kept the film feeling real. What was supposed to be a tightly controlled monster flick became organic, unpredictable, and oddly charming. The film's heart came not from the script alone, but from the moments the actors made their own. Many of Tremors' best moments were improvised. Bacon and Ward turned frustration into iconic, unscripted magic. Shocking Secret 13. The deleted ending. You'll never see few fans know that Tremors originally had a very different ending. Instead of Valentine and Rhonda sharing a hopeful kiss, the film concluded on a bleak, uncertain note. The survivors looked out across the desert, realizing the graboids might not be gone at all. The studio hated it. Test audiences walked out confused, wanting closure. So the filmmakers reshot the finale, giving Valentine a moment of victory and a romantic payoff. It was lighter, more satisfying, and ultimately what audiences remembered. But in doing so, a darker, more unsettling ending was buried. Somewhere in Universal's archives lies footage of an alternate Tremors, where the desert doesn't feel safe, and survival is only temporary. A reminder that sometimes happy endings are manufactured, not earned. Tremors originally ended bleakly, with no kiss. Universal forced a reshoot for a happier, romantic finale. Shocking Secret 14. Michael Gross' shocking transformation. After Family Ties. Michael Gross was America's favorite dad on Family Ties, a warm, lovable figure on television. But when he signed on to Tremors, just one day after filming the final episode of Family Ties, he transformed into Burt Gummer, the paranoid survivalist with an arsenal of weapons. The contrast stunned fans. Gross relished the chance to shed his wholesome image, diving headfirst into paranoia, comedy, and explosive action. His performance was so iconic that Burt Gummer became the through line of the entire Tremors franchise, appearing in more sequels than any other character. What began as a shocking career pivot turned into a reinvention. Gross didn't just play Burt Gummer, he became the soul of Tremors, proof that even the most unlikely actors can become cult legends.
Yeah!
Yeah, all right. Yeah.
Michael Gross traded wholesome dad for paranoid survivalist Burt Gummer, becoming Tremors' enduring cult icon. Shocking Secret 15, the town that never existed. Perfection, Nevada, the tiny desert town terrorized by graboids, wasn't real. The filmmakers built the entire town from scratch in Lone Pine, California. Every building, every storefront, even the water tower was constructed just for the movie. But the illusion was so convincing that tourists later searched for the town, believing it actually existed. Some even drove across Nevada deserts with maps in hand, hunting for perfection. When filming ended, the set was dismantled, leaving nothing behind but sand and stone. Perfection vanished as quickly as it appeared, surviving only on film. For fans, it became more than a setting. It was a myth, a place that lived only in memory.
Wait.
Perfection, Nevada, was a fully built set in California, so real fans hunted it, but it vanished after filming, leaving only legend. Shocking Secret 16, why theatrical release almost didn't happen. Universal Pictures didn't know what to do with Tremors. Early screenings had audiences laughing as much as screaming, leaving executives baffled. Was it a horror film? A comedy? A parody? That confusion nearly doomed it to a direct-to-video release. For weeks, the studio debated shelving the project altogether, fearing it wouldn't attract audiences. Kevin Bacon's star power wasn't enough to sway them, and the film's odd mix of tones left marketing teams at a loss. Finally, Tremors was given a limited theatrical release, but with minimal promotion. The studio expected it to flop, and at the box office, it did. But what Universal didn't realize was that the movie was about to find a second life far bigger than theaters could provide.
There's one. Straight out in front. See if we can keep him right there.
Universal was baffled by Tremors' tone and nearly shelved it. Limited release flopped, but the film's cult life was just beginning. Shocking Secret 17, the VHS revolution that saved Tremors. After a disappointing theatrical run, Tremors should have disappeared. But then came the VHS boom. Home video turned the film into an underground sensation, passed from friend to friend, taped off TV, and replayed endlessly at sleepovers. Video rental stores couldn't keep copies on shelves. Word of mouth transformed Tremors from a box office failure into a cult favorite. Families who missed it in theaters discovered it at home, where its mix of horror and comedy fit perfectly. The miracle of VHS didn't just save Tremors, it defined its legacy. Without video rentals, the film might have vanished into obscurity. Instead, it became one of the most rewatched monster movies of the 90s.
Run, Val, run! Yeah!
VHS turned Tremors from box office flop to cult classic, spreading its underground fame one rental at a time. Shocking Secret 18, the sequels no one saw coming. When Tremors flopped in theaters, no one expected sequels. Yet the franchise grew into a sprawling universe with multiple direct-to-video films, a short-lived TV series, and even video games. Each sequel introduced new twists, from shriekers that hunted in packs to airborne ass blasters. While some fans saw them as campy, others embraced the absurd expansion of the graboid mythology. Against all odds, Tremors evolved into one of Universal's longest-running franchises. What began as a one-off desert thriller became a multi-decade saga, fueled not by blockbuster profits, but by relentless fan devotion.
Well, it just...
Tremors spawned sequels, a TV show, and games, turning a flop into a long-running cult franchise fueled by fan devotion. Shocking Secret 19. Kevin Bacon's regret over walking away. Kevin Bacon was the face of Tremors, but he never returned for the sequels. At the time, he believed the film's box office failure made it a dead end. Years later, he admitted he regretted the decision. Bacon even signed onto a proposed Tremors TV reboot in 2018, reprising Valentine decades later. The pilot was shot, critics praised it, but Universal shelved the project before it aired. Fans were devastated. For Bacon, Tremors became the one role that haunted him. He called it one of the best films he'd ever made, and the franchise's longevity only deepened his frustration at having walked away too soon. Kevin Bacon skipped the Tremors sequels, later regretting it, and even a 2018 TV reboot he joined was shelved, leaving fans and him frustrated. Shocking Secret 20. How Tremors became an unlikely cult legacy. What started as a movie Universal didn't believe in became a cult legend. Tremors defied categorization, part horror, part comedy, part western, and in doing so, it carved out its own genre. Fans embraced its quirky tone, quotable lines, and unforgettable monsters. Decades later, it still screens at midnight showings, inspires fan art, and sparks endless online debates about sequels, spin-offs, and lost projects. The truth is, Tremors survived because it was more than just a monster movie. It was a story about survival, friendship, and humor in the face of fear. That's why, even buried under studio doubt and box office failure, it dug its way into history and never let go. Tremors defied expectations, blending horror, comedy, and Western elements to become a lasting cult classic, beloved for its monsters, humor, and heart. Tremors wasn't just a monster movie. It was a gamble, a strange hybrid of horror and comedy that almost never saw the light of day. But its survival turned it into something greater, a cult legend with secrets still buried under the desert sand. Maybe that's why it still pulls us back, because it's proof that even the strangest risks can echo through time. If this dug up a side of Tremors you didn't know, share your favorite shocking secret in the comments. And make sure to like and subscribe for more untold stories from the films that refuse to die. Remember, some things never stay buried forever.